All right, in lesson 1.2, we're going to talk about how do you display categorical data. We use what's called a frequency table or a relative frequency table to summarize a variable's distribution in numerical form. To display the distribution more clearly, we're going to use a graph. Now, since we're talking categorical data, we're going to use a bar graph, the same one that you learned about in elementary school. Bar graph shows each category as a bar. The heights of the graph show the category frequencies or relative frequencies. Okay, remember what relative frequencies are. These are percentages. Okay, a pie chart shows each category as a slice of a pie, and the areas of the slices are proportional to the category frequencies or relative frequencies. How to make a bar chart. All right, first thing you got to do is draw and label the axis. Put the name of the categorical variable under the horizontal axis. To the left of the vertical axis, indicate if the graph shows frequency or relative frequency. Use the word percent or proportion of the individuals in each category. If you do not label the axis, you will lose points, so make sure you label the axis. Then to scale the axis, write the names of the categories at equally spaced intervals under the horizontal axis. On the vertical axis, start at 0 and place tick marks at equal intervals until you exceed the largest frequency or relative frequency in any category. It's kind of common sense. Scale your axes carefully. And then lastly, draw the bars above the category names and make the bars equal in width. Leave gaps between them and be sure that the height of each bar corresponds to the frequency or relative frequency of individuals in that category. All right, so here's an example of a bar chart. All right, this one is done with percentages. This is the relative frequency bar chart. So what I have is each category over here in the left represents one of those bars, and I've labeled it under the x-axis, and more generally labeled it by education level. And then on the vertical axis, you can see it starts at 0 and it goes up, but it does have the very important label of percent, not frequency, but percentage. Okay, so we know that these are percentages that we're seeing. All right, and then you draw the bars according to the values that are in the table. Okay. Now, if it's a pie chart, it's very similar. So what would you do? You have your circle, you label the sections, and with pie charts, it's always percentages. Okay, so when you look at the percent of the whole, percent of the whole is 13%. High school graduates 22%. Some colleges 28%. But notice the labels. You have an overall general title, and then the specific sections are also labeled. So bar charts and pie charts can display distribution of categorical data. A bar chart can also be used to compare the distribution of categorical data in 2 or more groups. It's a good idea when you're comparing 2 or more groups to use percentages or proportions, because groups can have different sizes. That doesn't necessarily mean the numbers match up. So this is a good example, that superpower example we did before in the previous lesson. If we put this in a frequency and we divided it by male and female, we would do what percent of the male like invisibility or percent of the female like invisibility, and so on and so forth through the different superpowers. But notice the labels. Vertical has relative frequency. It could also have written percentage there. That's fine as well. And then the individual superpowers, as well as the general title of superpower on the horizontal axis. Now, one last thing. Don't do it. Bar charts are a bit dull to look at. I get that. It is tempting to replace the bars with pictures or to use some special 3D effects to make the graph seem more interesting, but don't do it. Here's why. Our eyes react to the area of the bars as well as to their height. When all the bars are the same width, the area varies in proportion to the height, and our eyes receive the right impression about the quantities being compared. But if they're not the same width, then our eyes play tricks on us. Okay, so you can see the difference between these two graphs. This one uses nice little graphics, but it kind of looks like the donuts has a bigger frequency than the pasta versus the pizza. Although this is a cute little graph on the left, it's not consistent with the method we want to use. We're going to use just bars. Okay, you can use colors, but you don't want to use bars so that the the width of each of the things we're measuring, donuts, pasta, and pizza, is the same, and our eyes don't play tricks on us. All right, let's try an example. Arbitron, the rating service for radio station audiences, places U.S. radio stations into categories that describe the kinds of programs that they broadcast. The frequency table describes the station formats in a given year. Make a bar chart to display the data and describe what you see. All right, so we're going to make a bar chart. I have very little room, so I'm going to have to squish it a little bit, but try to be as neat as I can. So I'm going to draw my outline. And my overall category down here is the format of the station. And on the vertical axis, count of the stations. All right, so let's look at my counts right here. Look at what is the top count. There's 2,500, something, 4,800. Looks like 4,800 is our biggest one. So if I do this by thousands, let's do it like by 5,000. 0 starts at the bottom. So here's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Okay? So hopefully you'll have more room in your paper to do this, but I'm a little limited with the video, so I'm going to abbreviate. Now, along the horizontal axis, I'm going to put all of these different bars, okay? So I'm going to have to abbreviate because I have very little room. I'm going to say adult contemporary, all sports, contemporary hits, country, news talk, oldies, religious, and then rock, Spanish, variety, and other. Okay, so yours will be much neater than mine, but you get the idea. So I'm going to speed up the video so you can just see me do this, but you do need to write this on your paper. I do expect you to write this on your paper. And then we'll slow it down so we can talk about what we describe what we see. Okay, from here, we need to finish this problem. It says describe what you see. How would I describe this? We could say things like, from the bar graph, it appears that the most popular format are news / talk and other. You could describe the least popular format. Something about the graph. Just describe what you see is what you need to do. Okay, don't forget the bottom. All right, example 2. Here's a pie chart of the radio format that we just talked about. What percent of the graph does the country slice make up? Well, here's country. Now to find the percentage, we're going to need to go back to our table and look at what was country. Country was 28.93. So I'm going to find a percentage. It's 28.93. And then if I totaled up that whole table, we had 25,452 stations. Okay, this was the country slice of it. So to find this percentage, this is what we do. Country divided by the total. And that gives me 0.114. So I would say that what percent is 11.4%. Okay? And I would show that work. Then lastly, students in a high school stats class were given data about the favorite sport to play for a group of 35 girls. They produced the following pictograph. Explain how this graph is misleading. Okay? So think of it like a bar chart. What's the problem here? Well, the problem is that the bars are not the same width. Okay? Bars are not the same width. Which is misleading. Okay, another issue here is look at the key. That little purple ball is 4 players, but the green soccer ball is 5 players, and this one is 2, and this one is 2. So another issue with this graph is that the key for each ball is different. Okay, when you do a bar chart, you need them to be the same. Okay, those should be the same. All right, hopefully this is easy enough, and we'll talk to you in class.